Welcome to the show. However, you guys should know, with this show comes a lot of anxiety, a lot of doubt, a lot of fear, a lot of stress, a lot of things that I can't explain to you other than this is who I am and this is me. But regardless, I still want to welcome you to my show.
Just stay for the show. No candlelight to take you home. You tried bringing out the sunny times. You're not really good at telling lies. So sick of keeping it all in. I just want you to close all the doors. Just leave me alone. I tried to hide it. I'm scared of what's next. I still don't know where to go. Welcome to the show.
I decided the minute I start making music or being an artist, I kind of needed it to be something very personal. I knew it was a dangerous route that I was probably venturing into, but regardless, it was kind of inevitable because I've kind of made up my mind. For many of you that may know, and some of you that may not, I do have bipolar type 1. Those who have bipolar, they have a more radical chance of experiencing a higher high and a lower low. One day you could be completely fine and everything could be aligned and you could feel like everything makes sense. And then all of a sudden, you are propelled into the most darkest, deepest corner of the earth where you can't seem to recognize yourself.
Trying to stay alive. Don't wanna be alive. Trying to stay alive. Don't wanna be alive. I'm just trying to stay alive. Keep the fire down. Don't wanna be alone like yesterday.
It has somewhat of a direct correlation in relation to another disorder, which I've never really kind of mentioned, but they usually go hand in hand with another disorder called DID, which is Dissociative Identity Disorder. That, in a brief term, means you disassociate yourself with who you are.
For example, DID, it's like disassociating yourself. So it's kind of like waking up in a new body, new mind, new likes, new dislikes. It's kind of living with, I think, another you that is completely separate from who you identify as a person. For me anyway, personally, I never really get a choice of when that takes a turn. And you just keep going back and forth from that person.
The reason why I didn't really come up with this in the beginning was, to be completely honest, was because it was embarrassing. Like, just to be completely honest, it's not something that I was extremely proud of, and it wasn't something that I'd liked for people to see me in the light for. The first album. Does everyone remember the artwork for the album? It's a smashed glass, right? It's a smashed mirror into different fragments. You look in the mirror, you just see one version of yourself. a lot of the times for people that have DID, they see different versions, like a broken mirror, different fragments. Looking at yourself in the mirror then constantly, you tend to forget who you are at a certain point in time.
What's wrong with me? What the fuck's happening to me? Why do you keep doing this? Why? Stop.
No solo world.
Concept was actually based more on that. I do have bipolar, but I think for the longest time, because DID is such a I'll say like a very anomaly in terms of it's still being researched and there's not enough background. I don't know. I sometimes even think now if it feels the right thing to make that statement, because in the beginning I think I was more prone on just expressing myself. Like there was no real motive other than however people take it. I think I should just open up with a small part of who I am, and it would be a lot more easier for people to develop the idea that this might be based on my episode, which it's fine. But however, for me, the more real aspect is my episodes are. I disassociate myself in my episodes.
For the longest time, I felt like I had somebody else inside me. It felt like just a complete opposite world in which I was living in, a world that was very monotone. It was very black and white, and my whole life I battled with this, I guess, other individual until I finally decided to make him come to life, and his name is Mind of.
Mind of stands for mood swings in disorder.
Feel myself changing as my world starts dividing. I look upon you one last time as I
Set my wings on fire. Set my wings on fire. Set my wings on
Imagine you took years and years of trauma and years of bad experiences, all the things you felt during those past experiences that you've bottled up or you've comparted deeply into your brain, and you personified that as a character. What would that look like?
Oh, bless my heart when the wolves take me away. Don't fall apart when I come back from the grave. Forget my charms, I'll never be the same. We've came so far.
character is a product of my trauma, but he's the only character and the only persona and demeanor that, in my mind, that I created ever since I can remember, knows how to deal with such darkness. He has become the epitome of everything that just knows how to deal with shit. And he's portrayed in such a dark light because that is what he's born from. Milo is the force that is my so-called guardian. I call it a guardian because he's the one that really had to put up with a lot of the most traumatic moments I've had through my life experiences. How bad could it have been? It was pretty bad, I'll tell you that. It had to be something big enough for you to not want to process it, but still want to go on with your daily life. So you tend to bury it under the bushes. And you don't even know you bury it because it's just that much of a shock to you. I never show the world what the pieces that I make personally when I go through it. But this time, I spontaneously decided I wanted to just drop it, like fuck it. And it's not gonna be on any platforms because again, it's just something that I want to give to the world. I'm not even gonna mix the song, I'm just gonna put it out the way it is. In the most rawest form ever. Shit, I even spontaneously went out and shot a video for it too. But you know, it's something that's very, the reason is because it's something that's pretty close to heart. It's pretty dear to my heart. Obviously I was Mido when I made this. I don't even know the title of it because that's how much I usually end up making something when I'm in this period and I flush it out. This one is probably those ones that I think fall into line with something that doesn't have a real category yet. I want to say it's essentially part of the lore. I've always seen the perspective of Milo in this as a character in the storyline and everything. I've always felt how he is in a conceptual storyline through my eyes, but I think I've never really projected the realness of how it actually feels. I don't think people have actually seen what Milo is what Ian is to Milo in Milo's perspective. What really happens in my head when I turn into Milo. And you gotta listen to the lyrics, by the way, and again, it's not my perspective, it's Milo's perspective.
Spread my wings just to take you in. What a life it's been on the highest wing. We gave up long ago so you can dream it on, but now I stand alone. Oh, I broke down all my doors.
Well, would you believe it if I made this in 2 days, shot it, just, Milo shot it. I don't recall a lot, to be completely honest, because he made it and he put it out, and I think it's the first time you get to see him kind of explore his vulnerable side or whatnot. Well, Milo's never been shown in this light. The real Milo. Because the meaning behind it is extremely personal and is extremely real. It's one of the most personal and hardest songs. It could mean being comfortable in one's skin. It could also mean skins that you play or you put on to play a certain character or associate yourself with something. Also means things getting under your skin, things that might be one of your pet peeves, or if they bother you. How does it feel to be in a skin that doesn't make you feel comfortable? I've always had this repelling idea of Mino. I changed to Mino, and I've always rejected that idea. Because of that, I definitely wanted to never show that part to the world. Well, I didn't decide to not show it. I just didn't know how to.
I've unnoticedly have been switching on and off every time something critical happens to me.
Tell me if I'm lying. Oh, I just came back from the moon, from the lightning coming from your nude. Violence holding on to your tune. My moods are swinging for you. Oh, I just came back from the moon, found myself looking right at you. Violence playing into your tune. My moods are swinging for you. Color in my bones, no blue.
Imagine you black out for like a couple of days or maybe like a week or two, and you wake up and you think the last thing you remember was yesterday, but in fact it was a week ago or something, and you realize you've had conversations and you've done certain things, and it feels like a dream, right? It feels like a dream. So sometimes you would close your eyes and you'd wake up and you would be at a certain place and there'll be people in front of you, and you don't know exactly how you got there. When I come out from a switch, it feels like I've ran a marathon. Like it feels like I've been running for about 7 or 8 days. So my mind is completely scattered. My body's completely drained because your brain is constantly on overdrive. So it takes me a few days, more than before, because I'm getting older now, to come back to my original senses. It takes a lot more for me to come back to myself. But when I do, I stop now and I think, what is the last thing I remember? I've always had certain blackouts, but I've always kind of locked myself indoors, which is why I never go out, and because it does grow a certain fear in you. The whole insecurity part of this was just me having a hard time relationships and in general, just social life, just going out in parties. There's times where I'll just be outside and then I'll feel it, and then I'm like, okay, no, this is not happening.
Gotta go.
And
Yeah.
and kind of like, when you see like the Batman lights going on, it's just, I had to go back to my den and
and lock all the doors, and then next minute I wake up. I never recorded it. Well, there would be certain times where I would wonder about it, but I never recorded other than what I see that is left.
During my blackouts, that's who I would turn into. Little did I know what he sounded like, what he looked like, and I think the very first time I laid my eyes on Mida was the music video, So Beautiful.
So Beautiful was, I guess, very inspired by the idea that something so dark and sinister is actually something that's usually the most misunderstood. I wanted to depict Mido in his most darkest form.
When I first saw that character, because it was the first time I let my switch happen on screen, I scheduled the music video shoot to be when I was on the decline. The scenes that you see in So Beautiful where it's all black and white, that was my switch. And what was funny was on set, I remember just walking up to it and thinking, I can't believe this is happening. And then the camera was ready to roll, and we were speeding, and I kind of took a moment. I kind of asked them when we were going to start rolling it, and then they said, I've already done 3 takes of it.
What?
Yeah. So it was, I think for me, the most relieving, but at the same time terrifying things I've ever seen in my life. It was a little it was hard to edit. I'll give you that. It was a little hard to edit because I tried to leave in as much as I could, but there were some parts that I just couldn't leave in. I had to make a significant, I guess, point that all the black and white scenes there weren't me.
I don't think they understand sometimes when I'm not me, the thoughts, the trail of thoughts, the motives, just the knowledge and things, not even just talking about the persona, are completely not yours. It's not, they're completely different person. So it's like an anomaly, and
people will completely assume that you're aware of your consciousness right at that very moment, but you sound a little different. You talk a little different, and you say a lot of different things. And certainly your knowledge bank is a lot different too. Mido has a more biblical understanding of religion.
He has, for some reason, a lot of knowledge biblically. Whereas me, I went from Catholic, Christian to, not really like going to church. It's like, so for me, it was something that was an interesting topic that he started bringing up. He would mark himself with a cross. And I've never really understood because, you have like Cross Ian, which is Christian. The cross being, representing Christ. Right. It's not a topic that I would really actually go into, to be completely honest. Yeah. But if I switch, he makes it about that. He makes himself the fallen angel. And I think it's from that reference of being misunderstood.
He's prone to talk in a different way, sounds very deep. By the way, the voice changing, yes, it's an actual thing for Mido, and he hits an octave which I can't.
Mido's real voice is exact frequency. It might be a little, you might not believe it, but again, you got to actually hear it to believe it. Yeah. I can't go down to that octave.
I feel it coming. I never thought it would come to this. We like them struggles.
And
It's not your regular story.
God, this shit sucks.
So there's things that your brain tends to remember or tends to tap into when you disassociate yourself and you change it to somebody else. You know, a lot of times I hear this. I hear, "Oh, you're such a good actor," or something and stuff. But a lot of times people don't realize I'm not acting, and it's something that I can't. If I'm not Mido, for example, for certain moments, I like to think I time a lot of these moments where I start switching. And when I do switch, it might not be 70 or 80%. The question is, has Mido chose some of your tattoos? Yes, he has. Especially this one. And especially certain ones on my back and stuff. But I think for the most part, it wouldn't be a moment where I wake up and, oh, like I have a tattoo. I wonder who did that. No, it's not like that. It's more like, those are the extremities. So sometimes, if I relate my lows to Mido, you have a version of you that's 100% Mido, right? But imagine, what if you only had 10% of his essence? You still would feel what he was feeling, but you still associate that with something like, oh, I'm depressed, or I'm a little bit sad, or today I feel a little bit spiteful.
I am tied to your phone while our conversation's out the door. I'm paralyzed to your eyes. I was worried you'd be surprised. She's wrapped in a copy this, copy this, copy this. Copy this, copy this, copy this. Really want copy this, copy this, copy this. Copy this, copy this, copy this. Perfection hidden in the moonlight, yeah. No dead ends when it comes to you. When you sing to me, when she sings to me, I'm way too deep. There's no way to see. Tell me what your passion. Are we onto something, or is it just a way to keep it up? She's wrapped in a. All of a sudden they just wanted to know how I really feel. So I just
Imagine you are in an extremely high state of your mind, a state where not many average people can feel, and you are just trooping on like you're God or something, and it's like you have all these crazy ideas, but your body is shutting down on you. So that's when I start hallucinating a lot, and that's kind of when your brain is really on high extreme power. So it's just pumping and pumping, but you can't sleep. And that's when you start really going crazy. Like that's when you start going insane. Hence, I bring to you the character, Mr. Insanity.
Dear Insanity, if you are reading this, we have ventured too far off into our minds, and everything that we thought was a dream is now real. Even the nightmares. The time is running out, but yours has just begun. But don't worry, I'll find a way to come back. I always do. Yours truly.
So now, who is Mr. Insanity? Some say Mr. Insanity is Ian himself, which makes a lot of sense because Ian is still Christian Ian, well, same person. I am still me, but when I go manically high, I do get to a point when I go extremely at a very dangerously level high that I sometimes when I come back and I think I didn't black out, but I don't know how I was that same person, because he just almost goes too crazy.
When I did this Insanity album, I think for the most part, I thought I was completely present doing this. Only to find out I really wasn't. So
Interesting. Okay.
it came as a shocker when now my manic highs were taking that form.
How is Insanity a lot more dangerous? Mido is the protector, the guardian of my consciousness. But Insanity is, I think, the stirrer, the very character that has a lot of power over bringing a lot of stimulus into things. And who has to deal with that shit? Well, you guessed it.
What happens when something hits me that hard without warning is I deactivate my Instagram. I deactivate it because there's not telling what I'm gonna be saying, just because I'm scared of what I might accidentally fucking upload. To give you guys some type of assurance or closure about how I'm doing, I kind of have like a mood indicator on my Instagram profile. So when it's obviously a black moon, it means it's more towards Mido. If it's half and half, it means I am balanced out, which is where I want to be. If I'm to the yellow side, where it's just a complete yellow moon, it means it's Mr. Insanity.
I can't snap into Mido. I don't know how to. I don't know how to change my identity all of a sudden and all of a sudden click into Mido. What happens is I go to a very manic high state. Once I get to a very manical high state, and it doesn't always happen, and something triggers me in that state, Insanity changes to Mido. That's the only way that you can turn into Mido. It feels like something is stirring up inside you and you don't know what it is. But usually you tend to get that feeling when you're in your extreme highs and you're not thinking straight, and your words are jumbled, and you lose a whole sense and track of time and context of place. And it's only then that there's a transitional period where Insanity turns into Mido. It's as if I'm now looking at the chaos that has been unfolded, has been left out right in front of me, and I have to now process that. It's kind of like an anxiety attack. However, it's some people tend to get an anxiety attack. The way I see it is I black out. I don't know. I mean, maybe that could be better or worse.
The more and more you're faced with trauma, like the minute you feel it, you're out. It's like your body's immediate response to just open the door and kick you out.
Welcome to the other side.
So the other side is an existing universe inside the consciousness of the mind, and you can only get there through dreaming. Ever since I was a kid, I've always learned how to lucid dream. And I didn't know I was lucid dreaming. That lucid dreaming means you're completely aware that you're dreaming and you have full control over what's happening around in you, in your dream, in the environment. So if you want to fly, you can fly, and yada yada yada. In the other side are towns and things that are made of mythical, fantasy, mythology, any type of things that you would imagine in a dream and a nightmare to exist. But I've always realized that in my dreams, there were a lot of doors. I would go through the doors so many times, and I would end up at so many weird, and sometimes going through the wrong door would turn into a nightmare.
Doors were always the quote unquote just traumatic experiences. And again, and this is the real life now. I think it was a year before I would say knocking on too many doors, and it got to the point where I would just switch off side, and mine would he would punish me in a way, but he would make a statement to stop opening the doors.
Yeah.
That's when it became a concept.
So Peanut Butter and Tears is the music video is a representation of me when I was a kid, and I wandered through, and that's when I started wandering through these doors. Very early stages of insanity, before he turned into Mr. Insanity.
Somewhere down the conscious mind, Ian / Mr. Insanity comes across his youth, or memories unlocking his youth. One of them being peanut butter and jelly. However, when he comes across it this time, it's peanut butter and tears. It's pretty much a sad freak show. There's still fun in life, even after you've grown up. You just gotta know what you want. This part of the story goes back before So I Dance, so we were tracking back to Insanity coming out of the tomb, and it's like kind of the birth of Insanity. That's why we have the song called Don't Go Insane, but in fact he went insane when he came out to the real world. But the real world isn't the real world, it's actually the other side. And when he's greeted by the most ever so friendly and hostile villagers, it turns into a whole Frankenstein movie. Yeah, and the adventures begin.
Ian travels to the other side. He goes down this crazy path of trying to understand where he's at, until he realizes he can't leave, or he doesn't know how to get back out.
We wanted to bring the whole context of the time to something that it goes back way earlier. So when you have that quill, the quill that it's actually in more of those medieval times that Ian existed. He doesn't even know he's taking the form of insanity. Every single time he goes through the doors, he loses a bit of insanity.
Yeah.
Do you know when people ask you, sometimes they test you on your mental stability. They show you a picture of a butterfly.
I spent my night on melting snow, just turning my sorrows into pure gold. And I laugh inside, cause you won't know I was here from the moment the lights showed.
Always associated butterflies with like things that ripple across your mind. So they also say the butterfly effect, right?
Stay by my side when the nightmare goes. I've been feeling distant, just way out of control. But I laugh inside, just so you can glow in the dark when it's time for me. So just stay.
So for me, sanity represented butterflies, and ironically, the more you see butterflies, the more you are clinically insane in my world. So insanity is associated with when he sees butterflies. It's pretty much notifying the viewers of his mental state. No one in the scene, no one in the music video or the world can see the butterflies except for insanity.
In So I Dance, you see Mr. Insanity come across a city called Emerald City.
And there it was, the door. However, it was locked. It's never locked. Suddenly, the strangest pair appeared out of nowhere. What key? The green asked. The key in Emerald City, of course.
Emerald City was a kind of reference to obviously the Wizard of Oz. Wizard of Oz was one of the films that I've absolutely freaking was inspired by ever since I was a kid. And he is with the green, by the way, is a character that we are further developing. It's a very core character, I would like to say, but that's all I'm going to say. He has to now pass through the door, right?
So I just
He realizes the mayor, or the person that's running the town, goes by the name of Mido.
Mido, in the real world here, is very opposed to my manic high self, Mr. Insanity.
Yeah.
And he's always called me out on this, but he said there's only me and you.
Mm.
And I never really understood what that meant, because he said, you're just creating, I guess, a higher version of yourself, but that's you. But your real other self is Mido.
Yeah.
I don't, and this might sound weird. He'll be talking shit about insanity and insanity. So it'll just go back and forth to the point where it would get confusing, because we don't know who's telling the truth now. It gets to a point where some of them, I don't know who wants to continue doing what I do. Mr. Insanity obviously is a character that represents my highs.
Yeah.
It is a version of me that really started a lot of the vision of this. Because again, when I'm Mido, I don't really have, I guess you could say, like a yearning or want for developing a story.
Mm.
Insanity will make statements such as, he's the one that is keeping the boat afloat, as he would say. He's the one that, regardless of what comes of it and how much it strains everyone, it still keeps us going. So ultimately, Mario is like, okay, but then who pays for that?
Yeah.
And then because, and this is where the spark started happening, because it's who has more of a shine, I guess you could say.
Mm.
So it was never in, I guess, Mario's intention to really even think that Insanity was a character that, he just thought it was me. So it's essentially you that I'm kind of dealing with.
If you guys seen Mario 2, the movie, that's in the most present timeline. That's when Insanity became his full extreme insanity self.
Later on, we see his final version where he's completely, I guess, masked up, but then underneath is he's all glittered up. And you see two eyes that are just missing. It's very brief.
He's completely blind because he has now fallen to the other side, and he's completely succumbed to his insane powers, and almost to the point where he no longer can see, because the universe, he believes, is to be on him. And that's why when he takes his jacket off, you see lights and all these sparkles and things.
There's a God that creates this universe, and funny enough, this God is a clown. You know, playing homage. You know, might as well make something out of it. You know? What better God to have, right? And this clown starts, you know, fucking around, and he starts making all these characters and stories in a reflection of who he is. He gives each character a story to tell. Out of all my creations, you are the epitome of all that is good, the utmost of my potential. And his first creation gets jealous of all the other creations, you know. It's a bit biblical.
You are my first, and I'll make sure to be your last. You created me in your image, and
Now it's time to create mine and yours.
But he gets jealous, and the first story that he's ever made, or the first creation that got jealous, happens to be an angel, an archangel. And this archangel gets jealous, and the clown obviously sees the dark in it and decides to banish him. But what that further does is it changes him into like the demon king that he is now. It changes him because he goes through a phase of betrayal, love, and that love to fury. And you see the transition where he goes from this to the darkness that he is. Cuts into present time. This guy hasn't forgot. He swears to destroy every single one of this God's creation. He decides to infect, not destroy, infect every one of his stories, making him the main character of each story rather than the Ian that he set out to be. That darkness being Mido, by the way, the first creation.
This whole story, this whole thing is Mido trying to, yet again, infest this Ian. So up to that point, we understand that he got kidnapped. Don't know who kidnapped him, but he's now in this house, this crazy house.
Correct.
There's these voices that are trying to help him, but he's trying to numb it at the same time.
I see.
But because the voices are aware that something's coming, obviously that something being Mido, yet again to come and infect this Ian and take over his story. Always resorts to medication to subside all everything. And this medication is put there by Mr. Insane. It's kind of like if a god gives you with certain items to keep you in check without you even knowing that's like God's
Like plan.
Yeah. The ring is something to subside that too.
I see.
It's to somehow wear off with Mido. Well, I think it does really come from like an homage to my visual directing. So I wanted to have a lot of elements where, for me, like directing, obviously for me, like the best camera in the world, the best lens are these. As cliche as that sounds, but for me, I really do store everything here. So when my world flips, it feels like I'm losing one eye. Oh, yeah, and that painting. Right?
Yeah.
This character actually does exist in this film. So if Ian has a lover, alright, and let's say, so there has to be a rendition for the lover for Mido, and hence also a rendition for Insanity, because they interpret love and the figure of love very differently. For Misunderstood, she is a character that's trapped in the lore of the Mido series. Just like there's Misunderstood for Mido, there's a Miss Insanity for Insanity. The lady in the veil in the picture for the Mido movie, for Mido 2, yes, she is Misunderstood. Up to this point, we know that from what we see, through that stab, through that blood, Mido, and infested him. So that's kind of. But then he comes out of it, like he just snaps out of it, and he starts running away, I assume.
Yeah.
By the way, the red dances are Mido's minions.
Yes.
Opens the door, but then sees something, and it cuts.
And it cuts.
What if the clown god wasn't really the creator of all of this? What if there was another creator that created the clown god and the clown god was acting as the messenger? I do want to introduce not a character that belongs to me, but a character that has changed me. That's a hybrid.
That's a hybrid live. The hybrid dwells or resides or hides in the void. Now, where is the void? The void is somewhere locked away in the other side.
Right. So what is a void? So every time you have an idea and you forget, every time you have a core memory but it's forgotten, every time you have a bad memory, trauma, every time you have your first kiss, every time you have all these experiences, blah, 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 jumbled and forgotten, not remembered. There's some that I'm sure you forget, experiences that you block out, and other sources of experiences that you're inspired by. Every time I switch, it has to go to a certain spot. It has to go into a certain compartment. You can't just switch and not expect the damage to just not be there. It trickles down into a space, a confided space that we don't even know exists temporarily, no, permanently in the mind. How long has it been there for? As long as you can remember. You have so successfully locked it away as a kid, or maybe in your early teens, and you've dared not to look ever since. I dare not to look because I'm scared of how big it might have gotten. Everything you repress, suppress, forget, or get inspired by, everything has a consequence, is what I'm trying to say. It all trickles down to a spot, and in that spot, it has dwelled so long that it forms what we know to be an entity. It's created an abomination. I like to call it an abomination, you know.
The hybrid is an ancient god, is almost like a ruler of the other side, but not the originator. So it's kind of like a uninvited god.
It's almost like a titan. It's almost like an entity, an ancient enigma of something, right? So keep in mind that's what the hybrid is. It's something that we don't understand yet. Does the hybrid have a name? Maybe later you'll find out. Maybe later. Maybe not even in this album. But yes, the hybrid does have a name. Only actually, I'll go as far as to say only 5 people know the name of the hybrid. Because the hybrid is an actual real thing that exists in my real life. And I'm not saying it's like a person, no, but it is an entity. And now, story starts.
The only way you can get into the void is via a special key.
We see the forbidden door for the first time. So we see the door that he's not meant to enter, but somehow he manages to find a key and he enters it. The Ian that went into that void, how Ian comes out is honestly, I'll say this, it's the start of insanity. So it is the very cause of leading Ian down to the destructive path on becoming insanity. If you've seen Don't Go Insane, if you've seen So I Danced, and you've seen the progression of Ian turning into insanity, that is the making of insanity, hence the album Dear Insanity. But I'm talking about the origins of the origins.
Ian goes to the hybrid and states, "What am I doing here? What do you want from me?" Or rather, "Who are you and what is your name?" The hybrid's voice is so loud, it's so piercing, but it's made up of many, many voices.
You guys know when somebody goes into like a tomb, like an ancient pharaoh's tomb, and then they, like that typical story when somebody accidentally opens something that they shouldn't and they get cursed, and they unleash almost like an ancient titan of a curse or a god or something that they shouldn't have awoken.
The hybrid almost misleads him to itself. The hybrid uses Ian as a puppet. It's a god that has an agenda, and it imposes his or hers, don't know, powers to generally create I guess you could say a messenger. The hybrid wants a successor, and through the successor it gains powers. But not just it gains powers, but it gains a vessel and a rite of passage. Why is it so important? Because it needs the rite of passage of a vessel in order for the hybrid to escape into the other side. By escaping out to the other side, it obtains complete control of this world. How is Mind so informed of all of this?
You've been lied to, and yet you're a fool for believing it. What promises did it make you? A world, power, or perhaps a way out?
So Mind is the guardian, or rather the gatekeeper of the other side. There are certain relations and certain ties with Mind and the hybrid in the past, before Ian. Maybe Mind was the first successor of the hybrid, but resented the hybrid. So the God that Mind talks about, and the God that Mind resents, and has ultimately turned into a fallen, might possibly be the hybrid. Why is the hybrid trapped? And who put the hybrid there? Well, possibly Mind. I like to differentiate my characters into colors. What is the primary colors of Mind? Red, black, and white. Red, black, white. That's Mind. What are the primary colors of Insanity? Violet, purple, green, and gold. What are the hybrid's colors? Red, green, and blue, or as we know as the primary colors, the RGBs. Which two colors have the same similarities of Mind and Insanity? The red and the green. Mind's red is influenced with the hybrid. Insanity's green is influenced with the hybrid. Mind has the essences of the hybrid from the past, and Insanity has now the essences of the hybrid as we see it presently. What is the one alternating color that's kind of stuck in the middle? So the blue is the influential color that we see in the eyes. When Ian's eyes go blue, or when Mind's eyes go blue, then that's when you know the hybrid has taken over. The character with the blue eyes, that's Ian. That's Ian going down the route of turning into Insanity. Tell me what's in your eyes, baby, red, green, or blue.
Tell me what's in your eyes, baby, red, green, or blue. Welcome to the other side.
It's essentially saying, who are you? In my timeline, it means who are you? Are you Mind, Insanity, or are you the hybrid? By the way, no Blu-rays is in the future. This is when Mind and Live and all of that, we do have a clash of universes. So this is when they're well aware of what the colors of the hybrid is. We haven't seen the hybrid. We have a version of what Ian's being influenced by the hybrid looks like, which is the version we saw of Limbo and now Saint. The hybrid essentially is made up of the 8 phases of the moon. But the 8 phases of the moon as we know it are phases of one moon. In this world, the 8 phases of the moon are separate moons. So we have 8 moons in the world of the other side. The hybrid joins all of these 8 moons and it turns into an eclipse. 8 phases, 8 separate doors, all that coexist inside the other side, but inside the void where the hybrid exists. Each dimension sets up almost like a mission, I guess you could say. There's 8 tasks. One of them is what we can see in Saint. 8 phases. Once these 8 phases are complete, you have unlocked a new character, which is Mr. Insanity.
What is that you're holding? The compass or a time?
Yep. So that's a shige, sun shige, or pocket watch. I always check the time of my dips or when it comes.
Okay.
Not like literally, but for me, it's a good measurement of knowing when I'm going in and when I'm going out of it. What does the clock resemble? What does the clock essentially signify? What is this? The circle. But what also looks like this? A moon. A moon looks like this, but also the clock, a analog clock. Essentially, one full rotation is one full circle, meaning one full moon. Time, the analog clock, is assigned to how much time Ian is given per phase. Once it goes complete, it turns into an eclipse. And then his next dimension opens. You're trying to stay alive almost within that 24 hours or 12 hours. In the music video of No Blueberries, DPR Live was looking at something as he got out of the car. That's right, a hand watch. What's the one thing that's revolving around the No Blueberry monster? The clock. On Welcome to the Other Side, the song, what do I say at the end of it?
2 minutes left to midnight. 2 minutes left to midnight.
What does that mean? It means it's about to hit the full rotation. What also happens at midnight usually? Maybe the full moon come out.
I just came back from the moon.
And what happens when it's a full moon? Wolves.
Oh, bless my heart when the wolves take me away. Who are you now when you hear the howl? I'm bothered by my illusions of nightmares or werewolves.
And bells.
Cold.
Bells and wolves. Those two sounds are significant of insanity. What is the sword? What's the meaning behind the sword? The sword holds more of a powerful tool that was once wielded by certain past ancient gods, right? It doesn't necessarily belong to anyone. It's almost like a god killer, which is why the hybrid sends Ian to destroy, or rather, maybe steal the sword. We see bits and pieces of Mido wielding it. The clips that we see with Mido holding it via the one with the gloves. The gloves are an important piece, ladies and gentlemen. Only through these gloves you can wield the sword. So Saint Ian, or aka Insanity, future Insanity, goes to take the sword, steal it, go through a trial, and destroy it. But by touching the sword, it gets a glimpse of its previous owner, who you might think is Mido. We have an image at the end where Mido is holding the sword down and crouching. We have Insanity, by the way, the one in the red cape, that's Insanity. Is the hybrid an altar? I won't say it's an altar. I'll say it's something that's it's a bit forbidden. If you think the hybrid is me, meaning the actual hybrid is me, then you're wrong, as I was. And I did mention
I did say the hybrid was at the end of insanity, which is the most perilous and the most God forbidden, almost rebellious and almost off his ropes, off his ropes. His most crazy side, right? And going into the essence of Mido, which is the beginning. So that little gap that you see is what I call limbo, right? Insanity and Mido, and you have the process in. That's limbo, that's not hybrid. Limbo is the product of hybrid. I am essentially the product of the hybrid. I'm not the hybrid. I'm the product of the hybrid.
Come to a halt. The birds won't sing for you anymore, not like before. When the trees are all burning, all the stars will keep on turning, and I know I won't stop searching for the moment when the world stops for you.
Where does Mido 1 fit now? Like, so beautiful Mido and everything. So he creates versions of himself to by harnessing the power of the other side. And Mido is on the clock to really stop him. One common thing about all these Ians in all these multiverses, key fact, is they all have the same thing going on. Like, they all have something that's
Connected?
Yeah, connected in a way. Because,
interesting.
Because Insanity has a lot of voices. These voices represent his, different thoughts, different characters inside of him.
I need a rocket ship, I need to run from. I like no blueberries in my ice cream cake. No air to breathe with that masking tape.
Stop, please. I need a hostage free. I need a rocket ship. I need to run from
you.
I'm just kinda lost
From you.
I've been looking down a lot
From you.
I'm falling way too soft
From you.
Now tell me when to stop.
Oh no, here we go again to this beat. Oh oh, tell me why you wanna be so sweet. Tell me what's in your eyes, baby. Red, green, or blue.
Welcome to the other side.
I keep losing my temper for you. I love it how you think I'm always this cool. Excuse me, more I think I'm just a fool. What's in your eyes, baby? Red, green, or blue.
Welcome to the other side.
Chest at the end of Mido movie.
Yes.
It looks as if it's Insanity opening the chest based on the jacket that's being worn.
The chest is something that he, I guess you could say, harnesses his powers.
Okay.
So with that, he changes. With that, he makes worlds. With that, he creates. So the reason why I had it as like a chest type of thing is because I wanted it to resemble Pandora's box. No blueberries. I actually made that song about 2 years ago. I remember at the time I was feeling very angry. I don't know about what, but I've just figured I'd make a song about just people that you don't associate yourself with, that you're not very familiar with, and no matter what you do, you just can't connect to them. And I associated that with blueberries.
When you're so obsessed with something that you let that enrage you, so it talks about fear and a lot of resentment. I depicted that as blueberries because I don't know why. I don't know why. It talks about when it's one's obsession with something. To some people, something as small as a blueberry, if they're completely just locked onto this in a very negative way, something as small as a blueberry can appear to be a monster. It talks about it's anxiety, so that's pretty much what that comes from. When someone has an anxiety attack, they usually get triggered by things that sometimes other people would think of as silly, but to that person it could be like everything, you know. So if somebody has like an anxiety attack, it's really important that you really really treat that matter very seriously, because it's, you know, for everyone it's a different trigger, but just because it's not your trigger, it doesn't mean it's not a problem, you know.
Made a lot of bad decisions in my life, and you know, for whatever it's worth, I'm sure it built me to become who I am now. But honestly, there are times where I regret a lot of my decisions. Yeah, Nerves was one of the songs that I had to make to express that.
And it's through a lot of the decisions that you make because of the neglect that you give to love, to your family, friends, or yourself, that you find yourself in a very turbulent and chaotic scenario, you know. Video, it shows a lot of distant memories, but in general what that is he's showing the moments leading up to the decision to when he decided to accept Mitre, or really just kind of become him. Like, it's very hitting on the idea that a lot of people, you know, especially after going through a heartbreak or a turbulent fight or something with somebody they love, or it could even be talking about yourself, they decide to change, you know, they decide to, you know, they're like, fuck everything, you know, and it's like they decide to go down for a brief momentary moment until somebody shows them the light again. They decide to really just get stronger, in a sense, you know. And it's through resentment, and it's through a lot of these things that this person becomes more and more tough, you know. That's what tough love is, right? That's also like he loved you, I loved you, he loved you.
I loved you, he loved you, he loved you.
It's like a reference to, could be the inner me or the other person me. It's like a very cross reference to this whole Mitre character too.
Scaredy Cat was a song that was inspired by my fear and my fear of everything almost. So for Scaredy Cat, I think what I want is to have this character, this other character that's living inside of Mitre. You know, the one that's always scared but curious. And I'm sure you've heard of the term curiosity killed the cat. So that's essentially what it is, a scaredy cat.
There is a lot of fear in the unknown. There is a lot of intense moments where you have no control over your blackouts. And I've always was scared that I might say something hurtful to the ones I love around me. Ever since I was in my mid-20s, I've tried to fix it, which, by the way, it's you're not here to get fixed. That's number one thing. You're here to learn to coexist.
Started almost abusing the switches, and mind you, you shouldn't do this at all, but I really just, and in my mind I thought that was coexisting, but what it really was doing it was creating an ego for. And what happened was later on, it got to a point where I would make something and it would be completely bashed by it. And he would say this, and I would know, because the things that he would leave messages, and it almost becomes like a punishment. Like, I've had moments where I've made a decision on making a song and going to release it without having to give Mitre the seed. And there was moments where I got to a point where I couldn't release it anymore. It's one of the biggest attributes that I've leaned on was performance. I got to the point where I couldn't go up as myself, and Mitre would take the floor, and he would just I always say he's a bit of a diva, because theatrical and but certain things I don't agree with, but he's just in his, like, I guess you could say, his glory. Before I would deliberately want to switch,
So what I would do is I would look at the mirror. When I look into the mirror, I can't look at myself properly. I always do this, and you might have seen this habit. I always do this. I always close this eye because I can't look at it. I have a hard time looking at it, and I don't even remember since when. I know I did that since high school. I always have a really hard time looking at myself front on. Sometimes I have a hard time making eye contact. But again, it's all because I just have a very hard time processing who I am in a mirror. And I realized that later on. I just never knew why. I look at it with this eye, but if I look at it with this eye, I get to the point where if I call it a delay. So there's a moment where my eyes start moving like this, and I look this way, and it's almost like you're looking, but then your eyes don't move, but then it does. So that to me signals it's not me.
Okay.
But the only way I can really know. So I try not to do that too much because, well, I don't do that anymore now, but back then I kind of, again, you live, you learn, but I did that to bring out the side of me that could take the stage, not what I thought the weaker side was. It's hard to grasp that this is my reality sometimes, and it just doesn't make any sense.
I still am not used to it. It's kind of like someone cutting off your arm, and then your arm grows back off, and then they come again and they have to cut it off. So every single time they cut off, you never get used to the pain, right? You get used to the idea. You don't get used to the pain.
I've dropped all hopes and expectations of even trying to describe this to even like friends, and family.
When I speak to some of my friends, they eventually get really, I guess, annoyed at a certain point because they realize it's like they don't know who they're talking to.
I sometimes question, am I glorifying it in any type of way? I would hate to put it on a pedestal where it makes disorders look cool.
In a more realistic sense, it's really based on someone's consciousness that is developing right before your eyes. You're witnessing somebody's trauma. I know that sounds extreme, but hear me out now. The reason why I am extremely just full forward into this is because I know it will give so many people a lot more insight onto whether you have or you don't have this disorder. You'll get enough insight into what these characters feel and look like to one person and such. I'm not putting this in a negative light. I'm trying to exceed the amount of good that this has, or this could potentially have. Sorry, I'll say potentially have in giving a lot of insight to people that may feel discomfort with certain disorders or may not have the voice to really be just, I'm good to be who I am. I'm actually really happy to be who I am.
Just never apologize for being yourself. Like, straight up. Like, just don't apologize to anyone about being yourself. You really don't have to change for anybody. You don't have to dumb yourself down. Literally, you are you and the way you should be. And most importantly, that's what makes you special. Self-love, it's not talked about enough. Number one, you gotta learn to love yourself. Even though it's hard, you gotta lie through your teeth. So you keep waking up, looking at that half asleep self of yours and telling that person that you're fucking gonna get through it. Because you will. You'll always find a way. You'll always find a way. There's always a way. There's always a way.